Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. No, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor and pleasure to have so many dragons coming together in one space to get to know each other and to hear each other's stories, to share, to go deep into who we are and what we're here to give. My name is Adam Apollo, for those of you who don't know me, and my life has been a journey stitched with the weave of a dragon's tail. I have again and again come to points of time and spaces where I wondered, is everything I know about dragons, is all of these things, is all these hints and clues and tickles at the back of my mind, are these all just like from movies or from books? Like, where did this stuff come from? These little pieces of me that wanted to draw a dragon when I was 3 years old, or when I was in high school waking up and I knew I wanted to emblazon the back of these robes I was creating for Halloween with something, and all I could think of was this silver dragon weaving the elements. And why did I have these dreams about dragons? And why did I feel like sometimes when I'm out dancing to drum and bass that I'm like riding dragons, moving through the earth like magma expressing itself, alive? And I started really wondering, where does all of this come from? It took me a long time to put together the pieces of the story that I'll share with you tonight. And I normally tell this story in a format that says, well, first, I was over here, and then I met this person, and I had this crazy realization, and then I had this dream, and then I ended up meeting this other person the week after that, and they told me this thing that intersected with my dream, and I followed those trails, right? And I usually tell the story as I would tell the trail of my discovery. And the trail of my discovery jumps you from here in the timeline to here in the timeline to here in the timeline to here in the timeline. And so if I tell you that way, you have to kind of like piece it all back together again, and it actually takes me like 3 hours to tell it all and to build enough context so that you go, okay, he's not crazy. So part of this particular salon is that we're going to just set aside context for a minute. We're just going to say, you know what? We're all here to talk about dragons. Let's talk about dragons. Let's put aside all of the belief or disbelief, is it true or false, for just a minute, and just explore the stories together of our experience. Now, of course, my way may not be your way. You may come up here and you may want to really tell someone about a very specific moment of experience you had in a very specific place that brought forward some of your connection with dragons inside. So don't make my model your model. I'm just going to give you my model in the way that I want to do it tonight, because that's what I want to do. And it's going to be fun. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, but not too far, there was a planet full of dragons. Beings of light and fire. Beings of all the colors of the gems, of all the shades of the rainbow, of all the rock and the stone and the cloud and the stream. Dragons of every element, dancing, playing, moving, growing, living. I remember the beginning. A splintering crack of light shattering through the field of the void, opening to the brilliance of sunlight pouring upon my face, and seeing two great heads looking down at me. I climbed forth out of the shell and found myself alive, embodied, fleshy, able to grip the ground, flutter my wings and feel the drift of the wind. I grew. I got bigger. I ate things. I could smell the flow of the rain coming. I could feel the currents of the wind so gently that when I spread my wings and flapped and caught the air, I could ride it, I could surf it, I could glide and move and feel the elements roaring through my body. I could feel the fire in my heart, the liquid of my silver scales reflecting the sun. And I loved to play. I love to dance. I love to sing with the fire within my belly. Time passed, and I would teach of the feelings, of the weaves, of the flows, of the elements, the cascades from the heavenly realms that I had emerged from. The expressions of the source of all that we are moving through me, embodied. And then, one day, thunder struck. And there was a great roar among the peoples. The dragons were coming together in a conclave. All of the dragons gathered in this massive valley. Thousands of dragons from all over this world and others. They came together to connect, to talk, and to hear the grievances of some ancient dragon lords. One dragon in particular, a great red, scales like ruby catching on fire. Doom, 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 doom. He thundered forth, and he roared with rage. And he said, "My brothers, my sisters, we have been wronged. My very blood has been taken from this world. It has been carried across the great seas of the ether between stars. And it is now in another sea of stars far away. I can feel my grandchildren being born in another world. I can feel their spirits crying out, 'Where is my family? Where is my home?' Our lifeblood, our flow, our ancestral gift has been stolen. And we must go reclaim it. We cannot travel this great distance between galaxies in these bodies. So we must drop them and go. And I know of these beings who took our DNA. I know of these beings who took our life code. And they are little, and they are dishonoring, and they have taken from us this thing which is so sacred for our families. They are fleshy little beings with 5 fingers and 5 toes. Their skin is soft and crushes easily behind your claws. I will go and I will crush them. I will destroy them. I will make them pay and teach their spirits the way of honor that you cannot take. There were many other dragons that day who heard the roar, heard the passion, heard the truth in what he said. And they were so mad. And they would come forward, and some of them said, our bloods are stolen too. We know it. We can feel it. We had a grandson who was supposed to be born. He's gone now. He's not here. And so some of the dragons decided right then and there they were going to rip their bodies apart and travel as souls to this other sea of stars far away. Some of us feared for the safety of the beings in this other place. Some of us saw that regardless of how the blood had been taken, how the genetics were stolen, how these things had happened, was it truly right for them to just go and just destroy other worlds, take lives, do that to restore honor? Would that even restore honor? We went into deep prayer and ceremony, considering this. What can we do? For even as we considered, the dragon lords were tearing their bodies apart and birthing souls to fling across the stars. And we decided we had to know, who are these beings? These fleshy, little, squirming things that these dragon lords talk of. Let us travel in our minds to see them. And we journeyed across the great gap to this beautiful milky galaxy. And we danced along the stars around the area where we felt the blood of our people had flowed. And we saw beings of liquid and beauty, subtle and gentle, loving and resonant. We saw beings dancing amidst the trees, skipping and singing songs, catching the rays of sunlight and transforming them into things. We saw beings moving with such grace and speed and art there in the deserts where the winds were arising. We saw beings of stone, beings who had created caverns, ancient caverns, holding the lineage and the knowledge of their people, and knew that those people had been the ones that took the blood, and they were keeping track of it. Was there a dishonor? Or was there more to know about these beings? We decided we would not let them go and destroy. We would not let all of these beautiful beings of different elements, just like us, fall away. And so we aligned ourselves one by one to one of the stars that we felt, one of the elements we felt most aligned with in this other span of worlds. And we allowed our bodies to fall away and return to our planet. Our souls shot across the galactic gap, a weave like rainbows of so many spectrums, moving towards the stars of many worlds, birthing through those stars in order to align ourselves and our field of spirit to the specific genetic encoding of these humanoid beings, so that we could land then and be born through the womb of a mother. I found myself among a desert world, a place where there were martial arts, movement, dancing, expression, fire, play, warriors. And we also had this world of water, with forests and land, and traveled between the two. And I loved my parents, and they too were dragons from my home that had come here. And through our family and through our love, I began to know and see the beauty of this people. And then a storm came. Traveling between worlds, our ship was attacked. Our pod ripped from the transport. The door blasted open, lights coming in. Me being grabbed as a child, pulled away from my father. And I found myself waking up years later, running a giant mech warrior body, mining meteorites for beings who were a lot like dragons. Dragons that had somehow lost their great majesty and giant grace. Beings that were smaller, more raptor-like, and had awkwardness in this semi-humanoid, semi-dragon embodiment. And I was their slave, among many other slaves from many other worlds, as they were traveling the galaxy collecting these humanoids to use them in their conquest of destruction. What I knew in the deep depths of my soul but couldn't quite remember, their conquest of retribution. And so, I united together with a few of my other humanoid-like fellows. One of the blue skin, one of orange skin, and burl in depth. And we gathered our strength, we gathered our energy, we gathered our intelligence to escape. We figured out how to hack their communication systems, take control over the mech warrior bodies, grab on to their patrol ships and ride them to their great half-dome mothership. We injected viruses into their core computing systems through the help of my brother of the watery world. And we stole a freighter ship, took it back to the mines, gathered up as many of the men and women slaves as we could, and fled from this lava moon. We cruised out into space, going as far as we could with the resources we had, with the food that we had. But we could not go that far. We found ourselves only able to get to another nearby planet. And it was a giant ball of gas. There was no place for us to go there. There was no station to dock our freighter ship at. There was no land to land on. And we had no way to know how to get back home to our worlds. At that moment, my brother from the Seven Sister Stars, he went deep inside of himself. He went to this place that he calls the blue crystal fire, that he had learned from his people as a child. And in this place of blue crystal fire, he began to sing the song of his people and call them, if there's anyone out there in the vast expanses of space and time, hear us now. Help us get home. I knew that we were all about to die. That perhaps this adventure into 5 fingers and 5 toes was going to come to an end. And that I not only couldn't help my people, I couldn't stop the onslaught that was happening, but I also couldn't even save these people that had entrusted me with their lives by getting on this freighter ship. And I decided I was going to go back and tell them all that at least we would die free. And as I turned to go back to the depths of the ship and break my heart and so many others, a blue light shone through into the bridge. And I turned And I looked, and this brilliant blue dot above this yellowish gas giant got larger and larger and larger in my vision. This deep blue with the bottom covered in spindly cracks of brilliant, shining light blue got closer and closer and closer. And as it got closer, small little ships of light blurred past us. And it got larger and larger until the little blue cracks on the bottom became canyons. And these canyons swallowed our ship, took us all the way into thousands of layers and floors among canyon walls with ships traveling through them, and docked us into the side wall. But it was not like the docking of this reptilian technology or that of my homeworld, where everything no, it was a docking like a hand reaching out softly, or the mouth of a dolphin kissing. And our ship was sucked against the side wall. And I did not know what to do. My friends did not know what to do, so we put on our armor and we put on our things, and my water planet friend looked at us like we were out of our minds. And we rolled forth from this ship to go on to this larger mother planet ship thing, and came into this giant hall where the floors were beautiful lattices of sacred geometry, brilliant red strawberry with golden lacing, and beings of different colors standing on this beautiful balcony overlooking the space. And I entered the space ready for anything. And across the way, a door opens, and a woman glides forth wearing this elaborate, amazing dress. She glides over to me. Her hand comes up, and she stops my heart and says, "Be disarmed. You are welcome here." And for the first time, I felt the armor of worlds clashing fall from me. I felt the anger and the rage, the pain of the loss of my people, the traveling of the dragons, the loss of my homeworld, the enslavement on a lava moon, the pain of these beings destroying other worlds to try to restore some sense of honor. I felt all of that fall from me to the ground. And I remembered who I was. And I remembered what it felt like to be at home with family. These people, these many beings from many different stars and worlds, they took me in. They took in all of the peoples, some of whom were family from the same worlds, and nurtured us back to health, gave us strength again, helped us to accept the pain and to accept the anger and the rage before they would tell us how our worlds were doing. How are our homelands? And finally, when we were clear enough, prepared enough, aligned enough with the core of our being, back engaged, soul star, first and foremost, they told me that the water world, where so many of my people had come from, was all but destroyed. This place of forests and mountains and seas and rains. And that for my people, the Shiheli, only a desert planet remained. And there were many warriors protecting the cities, cities of white bone and stone that were woven into the mountains, into deep caverns where crystals and lakes and food was grown. Hiding in these caves, hiding in the solid power of those walls, they held off these forces. I knew that we must go back there. But I did not know how. How do we stop this war? How can I stop these beings from destroying? How can I stop these dragon lords from continuing their conquest across the galaxy, destroying worlds? And I thought, what if they just don't remember? What if, like me, they forgot who they are? What if I could help them by reminding them of their origins? And so I went to this technologist of the Galactic Council, and I said to him, do you have a way for us to change our bodies, to look different? And he said, actually I do. I have a very special piece of technology I've been working on for some time. It actually allows the matter around your body to compress into a new form, to bloom and blend, weaving the elements and the materials so that you have a physical body extension projection. Your original body will remain inside the larger physical projection, but you must feed that larger physical body, which is mass and material, in the way that it needs to be fed. And you will have to live inside of that until you remove it. And when you remove it, it may be difficult to reintegrate again for some time. And I said, okay, well, I want them to look like this. And I showed him the dragons of my world in the Andromedan space. And I said, can you give us enough of these that we can go in and go to war? He said, yes, I can make enough. We flew into the planet, aligned, synchronized, coming in from different areas to different cities. In the ship I was in, I stood among 4 others only in this large hangar. The ship came down. You could see in the monitor the landing coming in. There's sea of black reptilian armies crashing against the white walls of a beautiful city. And as the ship touched down, gravity fully engaging us to the planet, the doors beginning to open, the plasma-like dust of the desert planet blew in and met my nose, and suddenly the child inside of me that had been there, that had danced in those plasma-like winds, remembered who I am even deeper as this kind of being. And I clicked the button upon my belt buckle, and suddenly my body morphs out, and my neck extends, and my tail comes out. My wings sprout and bloom. My arms become muscular. And I was a great silver dragon. Looking to my sides, I see green, emerald, beauty, and red, epic, and blue, beautiful dragon, and golden dragon. And the door opens all the way, and we roar forth, running across the desert grounds towards the sea of black soldiers, and roar at them. And they have their guns and cowering back, looking towards the largest of them, the larger hybrid lords, and they looked at the others, and they looked at us, and they put down their guns, and they got down on their knees, and they bowed down to us. And the wave of soldiers behind them knelt and bowed down. For some part of them remembered, and they saw their gods. Their gods was themselves. They saw their own true nature, where they had come from. And in that moment, most of the war was ended. We told them, you must go from this planet. You must go back to your home. You must learn not to take lands from others. You must learn to create and harness strength in yourselves. And many of them left, but not all of them. It is a way of dragons to challenge. It is a way of these reptilian beings to prove their strength. And so it took moons. And in those moons, those of us that were in dragon form had to stay in dragon form and fight and show up and be there and tell them, you must go. Until eventually our world was free. And we were able to transform back to these beautiful, beautiful humanoid bodies again and reintegrate with our peoples that had survived. In the many millennia that passed after that, the war did not end. There were many other tides in the galaxy of battles and pain and destruction. But the thread of the dragons continued to weave, souls being born from one world to another, playing among the humanoid beings, learning the many elements and the many ways of their peoples, discovering their cultures, discovering their tribes, till at one point, many of the dragons realized there is a world where so many of these different elements can come together. So many of these different species in different ways, from the dragons to the jungle beings to the martial artist Shiheli to the seven-starred Pleiadians to the elven Syrians to the Laquinon, and all of these other galactic peoples could come into a place of getting to know themselves as the same species. A heart healing of the galaxy could happen in this world. But we knew that souls of many, many worlds were going to flock there. We knew that some of those ancient dragon lords who still had not faced their own karma and their own samskara of choosing to go destroy another people out of a sense of dishonor, that some of those souls would travel there too. And so, as guardians we came, as teachers we came, as light workers we came, as Syrians, as Pleiadians, as Arturians, as Yehonians, as Shiheli, as Laquinon, as Nagura, as many, many other kinds of beings and species from across the galaxy, we came to the seed that was Gaia. And we found ourselves embodied in this home, united as one people, one species, with all of our differences, all of our vast genetic hybrid shifts. Each of our star tribes massively adjusted the genome of this human. But through the human, we could connect and see each other as the same. And so the trail of the dragons began to roll across the earth, kept in the secret teachings of the Nagas high in the Himalayas, kept in the secret teachings of the Quetzalcoatl, kept in the teachings of serpent and Chinese dragon, Taoist alchemy, kept in the teachings of my people, the Tuatha De Danann, kept in the teachings of so many lands. The dragons continued, planting the seeds, being guardians, showing up for each other, and working to heal the original dragon wound, to accept and bring grace when there is dishonor, to love through our deepest hurt, and to show up more fully and deeply as ourselves in each incarnation, no matter what we look like. Welcome, dragons. It is an honor to be here with you. Shin yo hyan ye he, tun ye tun, shungan kanya, nya ne hi samani. Ra! Shinga. Dewa. Thank you.